guys, welcome to the first episode of the Bands and Banter podcast. My name is Tanner, and today I had the awesome opportunity to talk to Robbie Litchfield, the guitar player for SavingVice. Robbie and I talked about everything from how he got his start in music to him starting his own studio and the scene. All of Robbie's links will be down in the description below, so be sure to check those out if you're watching on YouTube. And without further ado, Robbie Litchfield from SavingVice.
Yeah, my name's Robbie Litchfield, best known as the guitarist of SavingVice, a metalcore band from Vermont. I've recently launched my own recording studio called Hell Here Studios. Just something that I basically started doing when quarantine happened. You know, the band, we released our debut album, Hello There, and we had all these tours booked and all this momentum with the band. You know, when quarantine happened, you know, I had to find something to do with my time. I've always had a passion for audio production, just never really had that time for it. And so all of 2020, I pretty much just, you know, busted ass doing that. And yeah, so now I'm up and running. I'm recording bands, producing, and that's what I'm doing for my main income. That's like what I do along with the band, obviously.
That's wicked. What's been your what do you think the hardest part about transitioning and starting your studio was?
I would say that I've had a relatively easy time only because there's so much education out there. I started doing this in 2020, at least seriously started doing this. So, you know, the information out there is pretty incredible. I'm a part of URM Academy as well, which is kind of like this this community for rock and metal musicians and producers, I should say. And yeah, and so like the resources and education out there is pretty accessible, very cheap. So that in that sense, I had a really easy time. The hardest part for me was probably, I guess, just investing all that time. Audio production it's not like graphic design or video or any other kind of trade. Like, I feel like there's a really easy learning curve with a lot of other professions. I don't want to say easy, but easier, I should say. With audio, it just feels like an ocean, man. It's like, I thought I was going into a swimming pool, but the amount of information in audio alone is like a whole ocean. And it's like, every day I'm learning something new and it's crazy. I'm like, oh my God, you know, it's just, there's a lot of information out there. It's really, really hard thing to master, you know?
Yeah, and there's always like something else, right? Like the minute you figure something else, you're like, oh man, this is sounding good. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh man, I gotta like mess with EQ and I gotta mess with all that other stuff, which takes time.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's like, I listened to mixes I made, like 2 months ago. And I'm like, Jesus, what was I thinking? You know what I mean? It's like, you know, so it's just crazy. I mean, I guess that's a good thing if you're progressing that quickly, you know, but yeah, it's endless, man. It's endless.
And I mean, like, it's a good thing though if you look back and all of a sudden you're like, oh man, what am I doing there? That definitely means you've improved in the profession or whatever skill you're doing, and that goes for anything.
Right.
Yeah. Do you want to tell me a bit about how you got into music and like how you started getting into the whole scene, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, my story is a little unorthodox, I'd say. So, I mean, I grew up in a small rural town in Vermont, in a town called Jamaica, which I understand is a pretty unique, funny name. But yeah, I mean, I grew up in this kind of rural area where you know that those towns where country kids were the popular kids, like those the rednecks were the popular kids. Yeah, that was my hometown growing up. So it was kind of like just rap and hip hop were kind of like the main things my friends listened to. Excuse me, rap and country were like the main genres that a lot of kids listened to in my school. So, you know, I've always been a big rock fan growing up. You know, started out with more like 90s, kind of like, I love Green Day, for example. That was like probably my first favorite alternative band growing up was Green Day. I was obsessed with them. Right. And then it kind of took a weird turn. I met my best friend when I was 14. To this day, his name's also Tanner, funny enough. And yeah, a lot of Tanners in my life. He kind of turned me on to like the whole metal and classic rock and metal kind of stuff. So, you know, I listened to, like, I feel like a lot of scene kids grew up listening to like pop punk, and that's their gateway into the scene. But for me, it's almost like I work backwards in a really weird fucking way. So I was listening to like Metallica, Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, and then that kind of progressed into new metal, right? So imagine me like 15 years old. I was like bumping Disturbed and Slipknot and like Korn, Tool. Like those were like my favorite bands. You know what I mean? And then for some reason, it just took a curve when I was like later into high school. And the band, I would say the band that truly got me into the scene was A Day to Remember. Yeah, and I mean, there's
Amazing
no
band.
fancy. Yeah, I love their, well, not the most recent stuff, but I do love the band. I mean, no special story around that, but I mean, I just found a Facebook, or excuse me, YouTube. They have like recommended for you or whatever on the sidebar.
Yeah.
I literally just saw A Day to Remember, and I think it was All I Want, I think was the song. And I listened to it. And I don't know if you've ever had a song where you're just like everything clicked with you and you're like, oh my God, like this is really fucking good. And then I just kept listening to their songs. And like, I think it was right when What Separates Me From You, that album came out. I'm pretty sure it was like right after that came out. And I fell in love with them. I showed them to my best friend. He fell in love with them. And that was my first scene concert. It was A Day to Remember of Mice and Men. And it was Chunk No Captain Chunk was the opener.
That's a nuts show.
And yeah, it was a badass show. It was the Right Back at It Again tour. Their new single at the time, Right Back at It Again, off Common Courtesy. And I remember seeing that show, and that's where I like fell in love with scene music. And that, dude, the floodgates kind of just flew open for me at that point. And so I was probably at that point a senior in high school. And so that's when I really, I'd say, got into scene music and started going to more shows. But the band I'd say that really influenced me to start a metalcore band, weirdly enough, was probably We Came as Romans. Really? I was obsessed with them growing up. I mean, I still love their music to this day, but that was probably the real band that got me into wanting to make my own band, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd say that's probably safe to say that's my story as far as coming into the scene.
That's pretty nuts, because I've noticed like a lot of people, or anyways, where I'm at, the kids are like the guys that really like you said, like Metallica and all that. They like hate the whole like scene genre of music, with a passion.
Yeah, I mean, I never quite understood that. You're talking about like elitism, right? That's kind of what you're. So it's like, it's just, I mean, if anyone that's listening to this that's been a part of like any of those forums on Lambgoat or those Facebook communities for like metal and stuff like that, they'll know exactly what we're talking about. But it's crazy to me to see those kinds of people like shitting on other types of music. The way I see it is like, we're all part of the same team, right? Like we're all part of the same overall community, you know what I mean? And we're fighting with each other. Like, it's just like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, we're the only genre that complains how we don't get more mainstream plays, yet we like shit all over every other genre. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know. It's just kind of ironic.
And they get mad when bands end up mainstream or on the radio and stuff. They get all mad that they've like sold out.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I don't get mad at bands wanting to go mainstream. Like Bring the Horizon and Architects are good recent examples of that for me. I just don't appreciate it when bands try to go radio for the wrong reasons. They half-ass it. The writing's lazy, the production's lazy. And like, A Day to Remember's most recent album is a pretty good example of that. I know it got a lot of flack from a lot of people. And it seems like the scene pretty much unanimously disowned that album, So it's and them being my favorite band, man, it's like, it's really disappointing. I had every intention of liking it, but I can't fake my love for that album,
And I think it's important to be able to like criticize musicians and bands that you really like. Like, you don't have to like everything. And there's a lot of people that'll get mad at you for saying like, oh, I don't like this specific song or this specific album by like this band. And it's like, come on, you're telling me that a band has like 400 songs and you like every single one? There's no way that you.
Oh my God, that almost that almost annoys me more than the people that shit on everything or the people that say they love everything. It's like, really? You're gonna sit there, like you said, you're gonna sit there and tell me you like their entire discography? You know what I hate? And those people that are like, they always mention the EP no one's ever heard of, like, oh dude, that EP slapped. Or like people that, oh my God, there's people that like love Bring the Horizons, like Count Your Blessings. Even Count Your Blessings was a pretty poorly written and mixed album, in my opinion. And it's like, it's fun because of how raw it is and how immature, or not immature, but you know what I mean, inexperienced it was. And you can hear the evolution of Bring to the Horizon off the album. And yeah, there are some decent like riffs and songs and stuff, but you're gonna sit there and tell me that's their best album, you're out of your fucking mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Just crazy to me.
And they'll have like they'll tell you about like, oh man, you're not a real fan unless you've listened to this like demo that's impossible to find anymore because like the label is taking it off everything. It's like,
you got like bootleg it off of some shady black market site or whatever. Yeah.
So you started the band SavingVice in 2015. Because when I was
that's like weirdly correct.
Because I was on Google and like 3 things told me like one site told me it was like 2017, one site told me it was 2015, and then one told me it was like 2014 or something. And I was like, I'm gonna go like right in the middle.
That's fucking hilarious. Yeah. So the technically correct answer is 2015. I started what is now SavingVice. We agreed as a band. Let me just explain why it says different things. So I started SavingVice in 2015. I was in college. I think I was a sophomore. I was a sophomore in college. Again, this is when I was really into We Came as Sermons, right? Kind of looping back to earlier, picking back up where we left off in the timeline. So I really wanted to start my own metalcore band. I already had like a pop punk cover band, whatever kind of bullshit thing going on. And I was like, fuck it. I want to play metalcore. I want to write originals. I don't want to play other people's songs. Fuck that. I want to write my own. And, so I kind of started piecing together band members and stuff like that. Forming the band was really, really fucking ghetto at first. Like, I remember two of the founding members I found on Craigslist. That's how I found them. One of them is Chase, who's our vocalist today. So it's like, it was just crazy how we pieced the band together back then. And it was like, I had no, other than that pop punk cover band bullshit, I had no prior experience being in a band, no prior experience running a band as a business. You know what I mean? I've had no record label, nothing. Just started from scratch, just wanted to play metalcore music and have a good time. That's basically how it all started. And, over time, members kind of came and went sort of thing. And the core members started just kind of gluing in place over time. You know how it is, just being a band like that. We decided in 2017, end of 2017, we had one EP out called Lost Words. We kind of talked and decided that we can write better music than that. We didn't really want that EP to be our first impression on the world. So we took down Lost Words off of all streaming platforms, and we basically smacked the reset button. And in 2018, we came back with our quote unquote debut single, Exhale. And Exhale is the beginning of the official SavingVice discography. So we agreed at that point that we would say that SavingVice was founded in 2017, because that was the year that we really birthed the SavingVice that we know and love today, kind of thing. Everything before that was kind of just us dicking around, trying to figure stuff out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So technically speaking, I did found it in 2015. I started in the end of 2015. But as far as like our official biography, we're going to say 2017 every time. So that's the answer to that question.
That's crazy. I mean, you've probably gotten asked this question a bunch before, but where did the name SavingVice come from?
Oh, this is a fun one. So I mean, it was during a band practice. This was back in, 2016. Yeah, we were rocking without a name for quite a few months. We were just focusing on what's up.
Just had a blank banner up when you played shows.
No, we weren't playing shows. That's the thing. Shit. We were just writing music, and we're just like, okay, we're a band, but we don't have a name yet, So our guitarist at the time, who was one of the founding members, one of the other Craigslist guy, me and him were kind of like the leaders of the band, so to speak. And he was actually the one that came up with this giant list of names. And we were at a band practice one day, and he was reading through the list, and we're like, nah, that's dumb, stupid, lame, And he finally landed on SavingVice, and we all just kind of paused, and we're like, yeah, I mean, I really like that a lot. We all kind of agreed that was the name that we really liked. It was unique, had a nice ring to it. The verb noun, the classic verb noun metalcore title. Yeah. So we were like, all right. So SavingVice had that nice ring to it. As far as the meaning goes, we just thought the name was fucking sick. And that's the honest to God truth. Later on, we kind of have like a press release answer for that, which, I mean, this is more of a casual conversation, so I don't mind telling you the real story. But Tyler our vocalist, our clean vocalist, he I might butcher. I actually haven't answered this question in a while, so I might butcher it. But Saving Vice, the word saving is an adjective. It's not a verb. So, and that being said, the reason behind Saving Vice is, at least for the press reasons and stuff like that, the meaning behind the name, it's that Vice, like this band is the thing that kind of saved us. It was the Vice that kind of kept us on the right path. I mean, you know how it is, man, being in metal bands and stuff like that.
For sure.
A lot of people grow up fucked up, you know, and they have issues with drugs and alcohol, you know, whatever your vices are, sex, whatever it may be. And we all have these issues and stuff like that. And, you know, the band was kind of that thing that kept us on the right path. You know, it's something productive. Yeah. So the band was like our saving vice. Like people that smoke cigarettes, you know, to calm their nerves, or smoke weed, like that's their saving vice. You feel me? Like that's kind of that's the general idea behind the name.
No, I 100% get that. And that's really cool that you guys were able to, I like the name a lot. That was like, because I find like a lot of times bands, because I heard about your band like probably I think last year. I think it was like recommended, or somebody that I knew like put it on their story or something. And I thought the name was sick at first, and then I listened to it and I was like, man, this is like good. And I was surprised like how good you guys were for like doing like without a label and all that, like doing everything yourself. I was like, man,
thanks, man.
Are like wicked. And I think you guys definitely have, like, even in some like the metal groups and stuff that I'm in, I've been seeing them like buzz and talk about your band a lot more, which I think is like wicked. Like, like, oh man, yeah, those guys are like sick, right? And just like based off of like the interactions I've had with you, you're also a very nice person. Yeah, like I like knowing that, you know, bands are like nice people, you know? And for the most part, every interaction I've really had with like any bands, they've all been like really nice. But like you seem like such a nice person, and it's cool that you're like getting there, you know?
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. And I try to be like, I can be an asshole. I think everyone that's close to me knows that, you know, because because at the end of the day, it's like I kind of am the leader of Saving Vice, in the sense that like I kind of call a lot of the shots, and the guys look to me for the answers, and that's a lot of weight, man. That's a lot of responsibility. I mean, we have a manager, we have a team set up, but a lot of the decision making kind of falls on my shoulders, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a burden that I chose to carry, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's tricky, man, because you know, being a boss, it's kind of like you have to be able to be assertive, right? You have to be able to stand your ground. And sometimes you look like a dick. Sometimes you look like an asshole. Same thing being a producer, man, working with bands. It's like, I can kiss your ass and tell you that take was amazing, but that's not going to get you guys the best product. You see what I'm saying? You need that guy in the studio to be like, hey, you can do that better. You know what I mean? Sure. Like hop back on that mic. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's the same thing. So sometimes I struggle sometimes with like the way I communicate, you know, like I try to be nice and I try to sugarcoat, but sometimes for me, you know, that does get kind of difficult, whether it's the band or producing or any other, you know, aspect of my life, trying to phrase things in a way that's fluffy. It's not really my personality. So it's something that I try very, very hard to get better at daily. So
I mean, sometimes honesty is good though, right? Like
but I think there's a way to be honest but also not sound like an asshole, because I've seen it done, you know, like it's but for me it's just like I'm such an efficient guy. Like I'm a guy that gets shit done. I'm a walker, not a talker, so to speak. So it's kind of like when I hear a take I don't like, I'm just like, all right, let's do it again. And but that the way my tone is, you know, it could sound like I'm being a jerk to the, you know, especially if I've never met you before, you know. You know, so it's tricky. I'm trying to be more friendly but also still stand my ground and, like, you know, be honest, like you said. I don't want to lie, you know. That's constructive criticism.
It's good that you're the type of producer that you know, like gives the feedback and stuff, because I know there are producers out there that will literally just like record like whatever the band wants. Like I forget his name, but he's like a pretty big producer, but that's all he does. Like he just
very passive.
Yeah, he just lets them do whatever, and he just records it and mixes it. Like he doesn't.
That sounds fucking terrible, because and I'll tell you, I mean, unless he's working with like fuck you musicians that are, unless they're better at production than you are, there's no reason to be doing that. So the way I see it, man, is my name is going to be on this EP. If you come into my studio and you record an EP or an album with me, my name is going to be on the back of that fucking CD. You see what I'm saying? On the back of that packaging. I want it to sound as good as possible. I treat every band and every artist that walks through my studio, including my own. Well, that kind of defeats the point of what I'm about to say, but every artist that comes through my studio, I treat as if they were my band in that moment of time. I don't half-ass anything. And I think that's why a lot of musicians like working with me too. A lot of them are just fans of SavingVice, and that's great, but they also respect that my vision and my ears as a producer, as a songwriter, I'm like, that riff sucks. Let's make this a little bit better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They like that I'm so engaged with their music as if it was my own, and if you want someone that's more passive, then you can go to that guy if you want, Yeah. But I think the best music comes from proper collaboration with whoever's recording you, producing you,
I'm not going to keep you here all day, but I do have one more question for you.
Yeah, hit me.
This one's just a little more lighthearted. What's
Sure.
been your like favorite moment out of your entire like music career? What's like the one moment that you can look back on and be like, wow, like I did that?
Such an unfair question. Man, I've got so many. Just give me a second here to think, because I've honestly, man, I could hang up my jacket right now and I could look back at my life and like I would be very proud of how far I've come so far. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of the bucket list stuff, like playing Warped Tour and playing giant festivals, playing with some of my favorite bands, like I've been able to cross those out the bucket list. I'll give the ties. I'd say it's a tie. Warped Tour was definitely one of my favorite days in my entire life.
I watched your set from Warped Tour. That was really cool.
Yeah. We have for any of you guys listening, we have a music video for our song "Run to You." That was filmed at our Warped Tour set from 2018. That was fucking bananas, dude. And we were one of the first bands. I remember all the guys were so bummed. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? We're going to play when all these kids are flooding in and we're the first stage like that they see.
Yeah.
So my friends, a lot of our friends actually stood by the entryway at Warped Tour where all the kids were coming in, flooding in. And they were kind of blocking off some of the other, it's hard to explain, but they were kind of like shepherding them to our stage.
That is
a lot of our homies. They're like, that stage right there, go to that stage. So we had a few hundred kids watching our set.
That's
which was really cool. Yeah. So Warped Tour was, and then not to mention we hung out with Falling in Reverse, our friends, and
so cool.
a lot of other bands. That was a really fun day. I would say a tie between that or our album headliner, or excuse me, our album release show last year, a little over a year ago, March 7th of 2020. Last show we played before quarantine. We sold out our home state of Vermont at Higher Ground, which is, the main venue for Vermont. And awesome. They were literally turning kids away at the door. And I literally just teared up. I'm like, so man, cool. How many shows do you play as growing up to 10, 20, 30 kids, you know what I mean? All these shitty dive bars. It's all that hard work. It's just emotional when it all hits you wow, we did something crazy. And now we're a household name in the metalcore scene. That's fucking nuts, man. And from nothing, no label, I get emotional. So I think for that reason, it's that might be the winner for me. It's definitely one of the two, those two nights.
Both of those are incredible though. Yeah. For real. And I think with your guys' music too, just even yesterday I went back and I listened to all your stuff and I read all the lyrics, and the vocabulary on your guys' lyrics blows my mind. It's so good. Like you touched on earlier, you guys don't really swear. And I think that's a big difference than a lot of metalcore bands I've heard, right? You guys just have such an insane vocabulary. Your lyrics are so good. I'm like, oh my God, this stuff is so sick.
Yeah. So, Tyler and I are the main songwriters for SavingVice. We write most of the material, me instrumentally and Tyler vocally. And, Tyler, I could say a lot of things about Tyler, good and bad, but I will say that lyrically and I mean this completely objectively, not because he's in my band, but objectively speaking, he's one of the best lyricists I know of in our scene. And it's
Yeah.
like, you know, his lyricism is really great, which is really ironic because he makes so many typos in the fucking band chat. Like, it's like, dude has the worst grammar ever, can't make a Facebook post to save his life, yet he writes amazing, brilliant lyrics. It's just super ironic. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
very
sure.
creative mind. So I'll let him know you said that.
Thank you. Well, I'm gonna wrap it up here so I don't keep you all day. But I really appreciate you doing this. It's really awesome to talk to you and kind of learn about you as a person and a bit about like you and the band. So if there's anything you want anyone else to know about you or shout out, let me know. And I'll put all your links and stuff in the description too.
Yeah, so I mean, right now we're taking a bit of a break, just because of quarantine stuff, but we have a lot of things in the works right now. We got new music coming this summer for sure. And we have tours hopefully coming back in the fall. So we'll kind of pick up where we left off last year and just keep the momentum going.
That's awesome. Well, I really appreciate it. And thank you everybody for listening. This has been Robbie Litchfield from SavingVice.